It's not necessarily an uncommon thing in the LEGO sphere to find promotions and obscure set variants that have been previously unrecorded or simply missed. Then there are sets we have no surviving examples of, or sets that were ultimately never released. What we almost never see, however, is a mainline set that we have no idea when or where it sold. That is the case for the 022 doll furniture set. Between the years 1961 and 1973, Samsonite distributed LEGO in North America. They had many sets that were exclusive to the US market and not available anywhere else. Some for good reason. The 022 is one of those strange sets, but it is elevated in that it has never been identified anywhere before. You won't find it in any department store catalogs, newspapers, or magazines archived online. The only evidence that ever existed are surviving examples. It seems hopeless that we can determine anything about this set or its story without all that. Well, the truth is, we don't actually need them in this case. I can tell you not only when the set would have released, but why exactly it has such a unique design and is missing from everywhere. There are many opinions about the doll furniture set floating around online. Historians, such as Gary Istock, theorize it just may have been a prototype, with only one example he knows of. He clarifies it could have also possibly been a department store exclusive, with both the explanations accounting for the absence in all materials and its rarity. The problem with the prototype explanation, however, is that it is easily disarmed. Just because a set is rare does not mean it is a prototype. As an example, there's a Samsonite set in a unique turquoise case that was released in 1968, which I also like to cite as the first LEGO turquoise element to reach the market, by technicality. Only 2 examples are known, but I found a retail source for the set. It was a department store exclusive, specifically for 3 Worlds. Same with this Canadian set, exclusive to Simpson Sears, only that no examples are currently known. So rarity doesn't automatically mean it was a prototype. He also rightly questions the agreed-on 1965 year of release. No online catalog such as Brickset or Bricklink cites a source for that year in particular, so we have no reason to believe it. He also points out that the set did not appear in the 1965 dealer order form, which has most 1965 released sets. He also points out that the 1x1 round brick with the tapered base did not exist until 1966, which we can correct immediately, as sets that released in 1965 show a tapered base. Not a big deal. The important point is that even the big dog historians are at a loss at explaining this set and its existence. Collectors are no different. I've spoken with 2 that own copies of this set, and they are equally baffled at the lack of information. They also postulate it was a prototype not meant for retail, given its unique design. It's also important to note that I do not fault anyone for arriving at the conclusions that they did. I'm lucky to have something that they missed. Because direct appearances and primary material are simply not available, I decided to first think about how the design of this set fits into Samsonite's catalog going into 1965. It doesn't, to put it bluntly. They made a design decision that Samsonite had never made on any other sets. They moved the LEGO logo outside of its iconic box, now significantly smaller. Why would Samsonite choose to do this? Why the set in particular? The context for why that decision was made can be found in 1963 with the release of the 905 doll set. It was a new concept for the time, in that it was the first set in North America marketed primarily to girls. They'd already included girls since 1961 on advertisements and such, images typically featuring one boy and one girl, but this was their first foray into leaning heavily in one direction. Its sister set for 1963, the 605 wheel toy, was likely more intended to interest boys, so that they'd have sets in the market for both genders. This is the reality of 1960s America. And that's why the 905 was doomed to fail, also due to the reality of 1960s America. No matter how much LEGO or Samsonite attempted to be inclusive, toy stores typically designated construction toys as primarily boys' toys. Toys for girls were of the homemaker variety. You'll see that term in particular. My Three Worlds catalog from 1968 puts toys for 3 to 12-year-old girls under categories called Future Family Makers and Housekeeping, with the caption, "Our society happily recognizes the essential role of women." I think that's a pretty clear indication as to how toys were marketed back then. So to simplify things, not only would girls have been alienated, or it may have been stocked alongside other LEGO sets in aisles that girls may have not have went into, some parents also would have not have purchased it, considering it a not appropriate toy. The 005 Discovery Trial Offer pamphlet, marketed towards parents, specifically says, "Make no mistake, LEGO's not only a boy's toy, girls love LEGO too," which I think shows Samsonite's continued intent in not only marketing to girls, but convincing parents. And we have evidence of how poorly the 905 actually sold, seen in newspapers at 50% discounts as early as 1966 and all the way into 1969, 4 years after its retirement. You'll have to take my word that it was the worst selling Samsonite set from 1961 to 73, and I'm confident in a claim like that. Newspapers aren't great at representing the overall availability, but they are great for identifying slow-moving inventory. So for the 1965 season, the doll set was given a capsule to obscure its doll association. All adverts in 1965 started avoiding using the word doll and instead referred to them as figures. The capsule does this as well, obscuring the words doll set and make all kinds of dolls. Similarly, other ads from 1965 refer to the set as also making an airplane, truck, train, or boat, and specifically use he as the pronoun for the child. This is a deliberate attempt to minimize the doll branding, to instead target boys, which means for one reason or another, Samsonite recognized girls were not getting the 905. So you may be thinking, wow, that's great, but why does that tell us anything about the doll furniture set? If the 905 wasn't selling well, so much so that it sat on shelves at a quarter of its price into Christmas of 1969, why would Samsonite create the 022 doll furniture set in the first place? Why would they release a set in a troubled line? Why would they create a special sale version of the doll set in 1965, only to release another doll set in the same year? Remember what we said about the design decision on the doll furniture's box? How it was unprecedented that Samsonite moved the LEGO logo outside the box and made it much smaller, instead opting to make the name of the set much more prominent. The above story about the 905 explains that really well. The 905 struggled to sell well, and so Samsonite course corrected with a new approach. Doll furniture instead of dolls themselves. It's almost like a reversal of the 905 capsule variant, wherein rather than minimizing the doll branding, they opted to minimize the LEGO branding for the new doll furniture set, which addresses one of the fundamental problems that the 905 had, but kind of leads us at a roadblock. As we've generally learned to question catalog sites, Bricklink, Brickset, Rebrickable, etc., can we confirm the 1965 year of release? Yes and no. Yes, in that I have evidence that strongly indicates a 1965 release, but no, in that I do not have the components to prove it succinctly and absolutely. Things are going to get complicated. I'm very fortunate to have a copy on hand, and while I think the parts within are interesting and can be informative, they should not be considered the main evidence when dating the set. It's pretty easy to handwave contents as being circumstantial and misleading, as collections mix together over time. We want our reasoning to be as strong as possible. Consider this. The drawer sleeve style box was pioneered by the new 1965 wave of sets. But the doll furniture set is strangely not present in early photos among prototype boxes, nor is it listed in the 1965 dealer order forms shown earlier. But there's a very particular set that appears in all those sources that matches with the 022 doll furniture set. The 021 wheel set, which in a weird way makes me emotional, as the 605 and 905 sets were featured together consistently through 1963. But as time went on, that association began to fade away, with the 605 more commonly being paired with the 610 wheel toy after 1964. The fact that the set numbers were paired, 021 and 022, is evidence of that deliberate association carrying through into 1965. It happened with the 001 gears and the 002 motor pack, as well as the 041 beginner set and the 042 pull toy. It'd be odd to have a set numbered 021 without 022. We can also look at the pattern between the 1961 through 1964 line and the new for 1965 line, seeing that they match up very well. Several can be directly correlated via price and approximate piece count. The 703 became the 120, the 705 became the 205, 708 285, 711 375, 105 041, and the 605 was the 021 wheel set. The 905 would be the odd one out if it didn't release in 1965. We also have the added benefit of a surviving example actually surviving and being documented, and it contains an idea book that last circulated in 1965. Now we've answered why the set was designed the unique way it was and when it would have released. Now we should pivot to the last question we asked earlier. Why is the doll furniture set missing in all print media? Because of the association with the 021 and 022's numbers, it's reasonable to assume they were both planned together, possibly as early as 1964. Otherwise, considering the companion set numbering approach, it would be strange to have a lone specialty set planned to be numbered 021 with 022 just to appear later. But after the 1964 Christmas season, it would have been apparent to Samsonite that the 905 doll set was simply not selling. Hence why the capsule was added in 1965 and the marketing direction switched to primarily to boys. So it is my belief that sometime in early 1965 it was decided to test market the 022 doll furniture set in a new attempt to break into the girls' market and expand sales. That would explain the omission of the 022 from even 1965 dealer order forms in the prototype boxes. We have an example of Samsonite test marketing, as according to this 1967 newspaper, they test marketed the 502 storage case set in Albuquerque before the larger 1967 release. And it makes sense in terms of approach as well, as Samsonite's sales never reached the glamour of the European market, coupled with the 905's troubled history. It would make sense for Samsonite to try something new and test it thoroughly before committing. Well, I reached out to someone who knows an original owner of a doll furniture set, and the original owner reported they got it from the Fort Collins area, supposedly, as obviously I have no way of confirming this. That's about 20 minutes from Loveland, where Samsonite's LEGO dedicated factory opened in April of 1965, which is an incredible lead, if true. But why test market the set? Why is it not a prototype? As I said, if after the 1964 Christmas season the 905 wasn't selling well, it would have been decided to move forward with the development of the 022 set and see if this new approach sold differently. And that difference is important, as the 021 wheel toy is essentially its predecessor, the 605 wheel toy. Same price point, similar part count. The 021 doll furniture set is an entirely new product, which is a telling indication that the doll models did not work. The test market theory is also bolstered by the fact that all 1965 boxes, even very rough prototypes, are present on an early 1965 pamphlet from the 695 bulk assortment, all except the doll furniture's box. If the wheel set and the doll furniture set were truly developed alongside each other, the purposeful omission of the doll furniture set is also telling. My copy of the set includes a 1966 catalog, as it references the 1966 extra parts program. But even if it was original to the set, for me it does not invalidate the test market theory nor the 1965 release date. For one, if it truly released for 1965 to a limited number of stores, but it was decided not to continue production, Samsonite could have simply used up what remained into 1966, hence my copy. Or another idea is that Samsonite simply tested again for Christmas of 1966. It'd make a lot of sense, as they went through all the trouble of designing, finalizing, and packaging the set. It wouldn't really make sense to give up after only one season. An established pattern is more telling than a fluke, and the girls' toy market was nothing they were going to hand-wave away. When we explain it as a prototype, it means that they went through all that trouble to finalize the set and then just gave up. Which isn't impossible, but it's also improbable. Of course, it depends on where you look, but it's just the fact that the set is the only set ever absent from everything we've ever salvaged. The fact that the set has entirely unique design features and decisions. The fact that it's incredibly rare, only about 10 copies are known, if that. Also consider the 905's capsule variant for 1965 and the shift in marketing. It's also even worth considering the anecdotal memory that the set came from Fort Collins, a place very close to Loveland. But that's all well and good. I just want to make sure we've taken the right path and not the most convenient one. I don't think it could have been a promotional item, as it wouldn't exactly make sense to produce something for a promotion that has the proven reluctance for consumers. I also thought it might be a companion intended for 905 doll sets left in stores, as I can see where the doll furniture aspect would complement that well. The major issue with that, however, is that I cannot see a reality in which toy stores would want an expensive $5 set to compete with the existing 905 doll sets that they couldn't get rid of. Could it have been a retailer exclusive without the whole test market theory? The possibility is always out there, but there's things that still make me weary. One, people have been looking for the set long before me. If it isn't in any major department store catalogs or even having been advertised in newspapers, where else would it be? To a much stronger point, I think it would be difficult to convince a retailer to take on the set as an exclusive, as any toy store that carried LEGO at that point, during 1963 to 1965, which would be most of that point, would have had experience with the 905 doll set, and likely would have not been happy to take on an exclusive version of it. Remember that the capsule variant is still around for 1965, and even the exclusive version, the 1905 canister doll set, only sold for the 1963 season. It never returned to Sears or Spiegel, which it was exclusive to. Could it have been a mail order set similar to the 005 Discovery set? Well, both the 005 and the 022 are absent from all LEGO print media in 1965. Only the Discovery set left plenty of evidence of when it was available, how it was advertised, and how it could be obtained. The doll furniture set is the odd one out. So for now, I've exhausted every possible avenue in thinking about this set. I'm confident in the conclusion of the 1965 release date, and I find the test market theory to be very well supported, but I'm left wishing for some semblance, some charade of surviving acknowledgement that the doll furniture set was even real.